Josh from Lustria Lives, and welcome to a 10-minute tier list. Today we'll be discussing the current state of units in Seraphon as of early 2023. A quick note, since the two halves of our army play so differently and have such a large effect on our units, I've decided to split these tier lists and discuss Starborne and Coalesce separately. You can find the Coalesce video linked below. Now let's get into the video. Going over how I do these tier lists, we have the tiers Sin, Great, Situational, Bad, and Bin instead of normal letter grades. Sin units are nearly auto-include. They're included in almost all competitive lists, and you need a really good reason not to include them in your army. Great units usually make up the bulk of your force. About 3/4 of your army should be from this category or above for a truly competitive army. Situational units are either picked for specific roles or as part of a SKU list, like some of the Ripperdactyl spam lists we've seen before. Bad units are either overpriced or just trying to fill a niche that isn't needed in our army or in the current season. And then bin units are either severely outclassed by other options or just completely useless and in need of a war scroll rewrite. Quick disclaimer, as per usual with tier lists, the following is only my opinion. Results may vary based on local meta and GHB, and other terms and conditions may apply. Now let's get into the tier list. Alright, now starting at the bottom in the bin tier, we have Saurus Warriors. These can be okay in Coalesce, but in Starborne they're just straight outclassed by Skinks, being slower, having similar durability, and not having a ranged attack option. Next we have the Warcry Warbands. Just a mix of units you don't really want to see together. You never really are needing the overpriced version of these when you can just buy the single Skink Priest separately. The Eternity Warden is both more expensive and worse than just a unit of Saurus Guard. Just never take him. Scar Veteran on Cold One is a overpriced version of the Scar Veteran on Carnosaur for barely any cheaper. You're only taking this one for the buff, and the buff just isn't that good. Saurus Old Blood on Foot, similarly, don't need the buff. It competes with all-out attack. Saurus Old Blood on Carnosaur, basically a side grade for the Scar Veteran on Carnosaur, but 40 points more. And then lastly, Saurus Knights, the base War Scroll is just severely lacking for its points. They really need the extra jaw attack from Coalesced. Moving up to bad, we have the Saurus Sunblood. Better than the Old Blood as he at least gives a unique buff, but you still just aren't taking enough Saurus units in a Starborne army to make him worth it. Troglodon is a utility war scroll made up of shooting, combat, and magic profiles, but it does all of them only okay, and it's too expensive to try and not have a specialized unit. Razordon Hunting Pack, just kind of outclassed by Salamanders, and we don't need any more low rend or no rend shooting. Stegodon used to be pretty good, especially in Thunder Lizard, but at this point the damage of the game has just upgraded to the point where a 10 wound monster on a 4-up save is almost never a worthwhile investment, especially at 270. Bastiladon with Ark of Sotek has some use as a teleporting cheap, really tanky monster to grab objectives, but I just don't see the play in it. I know some people have been able to make it work, just not for me. And then lastly, the Skink Chief on Stegodon. Again, 10 wounds on a 4-up save, only now he's over 300 points. Most armies can pick this up turn 1. In the situational tier, we have Kroxigor. Not a bad punch unit, just really not anything that a Starborne army needs. Pterodon Chief is a good, cheap, fast hero for things that need that. He's not currently a Galatian champion, which isn't great, but he can carry an artifact, especially an Arcane Tome, and you can have some play there. Ripperdactyls, only 80 points, can punch a little bit better than most chaff, and they're really fast, but they don't really do anything, but you know, they're also only 80 points. Terrawings, competing for the 80-point chaff slot. These ones are better if you're in a low bravery meta for their debuff. Their debuff's really the only reason to take them over Ripperdactyls. Bastiladon with Ark of Sotek. Some good shooting and long-range firepower on this. It's obviously better in Thunder Lizard, but including one in some Starborne lists to give you a longer range threat than your Skinks and Salamanders isn't a bad idea. Pterodons. Their Mortal Wound Bomb is actually pretty good. If you go hard on these, you can take out a lot of screens and get things out of the way for your other shooting units or charges. I wouldn't really go full army of these, but they are pretty good in small flanking units. Chameleon Skinks / Hunter Swanchi. Remains to be seen if Hunter Swanchi is a replacement War Scroll for Chameleon Skinks. These are great, especially the Hunter Swanchi version. However, we've already got so much mobility in Starborne, they aren't as needed as they would be in Coalesced. Their shooting is quite a bit better than regular Skinks, but as they're not battle line and some buffs don't apply to them, they can be outclassed. Scar Veteran on Carnosaur. The lone Saurus thing you commonly see in Starborne lists outside of Temple Guard mostly has use with a God Beast pendant in Draco's tail to drop down and get a 3d6 charge and just be like a suicide damage monster you throw into your opponent's army turn 1. Not much use outside of that specific build. In the Great Tier, we have the Skink Starseer. Can be a staple in lower point Starborne builds, and especially has some play in Draco's tail with the Carnosaur as that combo I just mentioned. Can add into your summoning points. 3d6 charge is always good, and his War Scroll spell is great. Sometimes you just run out of points and your other characters can be more important. Temple Guard, really important in a lot of Starborne lists, especially anything with Croak. You never really see more than one unit, and they aren't a unit you take on their own, but your slot is so important in Starborne lists to make sure that you can summon that you can't really have them any lower than this tier. Lord Croak himself. Croak is kind of a you build around him or you don't take him piece. His price tag is seemingly pretty low for what he does, but then you need Temple Guard, you need an Astrolist Bearer, you need all these pieces to make him function. So he ends up, I would say, a little bit worse than regular Slann builds, but they're very different and very fun. Engine of the Gods, not quite as good as it is in Coalesce because it's only 10 or 12 wounds and it doesn't have the scaly skin and no mortal wound protection, but its whole slot machine is great. All of its effects are amazing. It's a priest, it's a hero, it does damage in combat. It's just all around a really good mixed bag. Basically what the Troglodyon's trying to do, but actually successful at it. Skink Star Priest, staple in any kind of Skink spam builds to make them actually be able to do damage. Mortal Wound buff, not needing a roll or anything, is incredible. Throw this buff on 30 Skinks or a Bastiladon and he'll do work. He's a wizard on top. The Skink spell lore is amazing. Most Starborne builds should have at least one of these. Finally, in the Sin tier, we have the Slann Starmaster, the center of all your summoning, the center of your casting, a 3-cast, 3-deny wizard with unlimited range. Yeah, take him, always. Skink Priest, one of the highest point increases between release and now. Multiple outstanding buffs. 3 different buffs on a small character platform, especially in the current season where he can't be targeted by shooting if he's near Skinks. Put his buffs on the Engine of the Gods, put him on a Bastiladon, put him on a unit of Skinks, put him on a unit of Salamanders. He's incredible. Astrolith Bearer, also known as Lord Croak's best friend, 6-inch extra range on all of our spells, is great for everything except the Slann's War Scroll spell. That includes endless spells. That includes the current season spell, making it an 18-inch range to blow up an objective, and on top of that an area 6-up ward and an area +1 to cast. Just makes our magic dominance even better. Salamanders, the actual winner of the most increased points on a unit since release. They're still incredible, still worth taking. Probably be worth taking at even higher points simply because they're the only access to 2 rend that we have in our book. More important in Draco's Tail than in Fangs of Sotek, but a unit of 2 teleporting from Lord of Space and Time, shooting and then charging is one of the highest damage threats that we can muster. Then finally, the Humble Skink, right up here at the top tier. Bravery 10 makes them incredible. Skink is often joked as being one of the best keywords in the game because so many buffs can stack and trigger off of the Skink keyword. You can get units of 30 of these up to insane damage potential if you stack everything up on them. Much better in the big units than the small units, but they have the flexibility of being a little 80-point chaff unit as well. These are what you're building a Starborne list around, is skinks and salamanders. Alright, so hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you disagree with anything. Let me know any other kind of videos you'd like to see, and thanks for watching.